This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of Interview with the Lockpicker. Today's guest is, well, me, and today's host is Broke Picks. Say hi.
How you guys doing?
So, for the 100th episode, I wanted to have you interview me. There's a little bit of history there. Broke had told me when we interviewed and talked before that in the past he'd thought about doing an interview series similar to this, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to do the interview for this 100th episode. So I'll give it over to you.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. I wanted to start off with a big thank you for letting me host it. It's a big honor for me. I can't thank you enough. I hope I do you and your viewers proud. I guess let's get into it.
All right.
First off, let's start off with, what do you do for a living? I see all these computers and everything, and it's just way out of my league. So,
Well, to set the context, we're recording this live in my studio, my home studio right now. So there's computers and monitors and mixers and all kinds of other equipment all over the place. I work in IT. I've worked in IT for a little over 38 years. I work as a solution architect, and while a lot of that is technical, a lot of that is more people oriented and communications oriented, and collaborating with different teams of people to put together a solution that will work for a particular business line. Like I said, I've been in IT for over 38 years. I've been in my current role for the last 10 years. And prior to that, I was working for another company for 19 years doing a very similar job. So that's what I do.
well, that explains a lot of what you got going on here and the communication skills you got for this type of interview series. So what else we got? What hobbies led you to being in lock sport?
Well, I think, to go back a little bit further, as a kid, probably middle school, I used to love solving puzzles, Rubik's Cubes. There was a pyramid type puzzle. There was a missing links type puzzle. There were all these different puzzles that were all coming out around the same time. And that was probably, I'm going to guess, the early 80s-ish. So I'm dating myself here. But anyway, very much into the puzzles and solving the cubes. And I was solving the Rubik's Cube in like under a minute type of thing. But going into the future as an adult, kind of lost sight of doing that. And when the pandemic came, I was looking for something I could do that would not only engage my mind, but would engage my hands and use my technical and engineering type of skills to just help me keep my brain active. And I went through several lists of hobby ideas online. Nothing was list after list. Nothing was appealing to me until I came across this one list that had lockpicking on it. And I read a little bit about it, and I'm like, this sounds interesting to me. So I figured, locks are nothing more than puzzles to solve, and I gave it a try. So that previous interest as a kid in solving puzzles, and part of what I do for a living is solving problems. So problem solving is kind of goes along with the work. It's really, though, what led me to what I do with the channel, though, is really about I enjoy talking to people. So,
Yeah, and with that, you enjoy talking to people. So you've got 100 episodes here now.
yep.
In all these episodes, how did the first interviews influence the direction you went in lock sport to where you are now?
Well, I can kind of take that in two different directions. One, the initial interviews I did, probably the first 10 or 20 of them, a lot of them were different people in Locksport who um, made their own picks, for example. And I already had a history of doing woodworking. So I always enjoyed that and working with my hands. So a number of people I interviewed all told me, you need to give it a try. You need to try making your own handles. You need to try making your own picks. And I kept getting that again and again and again. And probably several months later, um, I decided to give it a try and made my own pick handles. And I absolutely enjoyed that. So that influenced me to give that a try. It also, I'd already done the whole making a challenge lock thing, but listening to some other people talk about some of the things they've done really inspired me to get back into it after taking somewhat of a hiatus from making them and doing the interview with, like, for example, Jay Gabriel is a mad scientist and genius when it comes to making challenge locks, and he inspired me to get back into it. So did several others. Pick Smith. There's several other different individuals that kind of molded me back to trying different things. So there's always something to try that's you can get into in Locksport.
So you named some really notable people in our sport here. What are some other notable lock sporters brought you to where you are today?
Well, so okay, so I'm going to split that one up in that as far as this interview series goes, I have a lot of people to thank. I'm going to go back to Lady Locks and I have been friends for quite some time. I think we got introduced, and she was either an orange or a green belt at the time, and I was working on my blue belt at the time. And we got to talking, and I loved the friendship and bouncing ideas off of her. And I bounced the idea for doing this interview series off of her, and she, later volunteered to be the first episode. But if it had not been for her involvement and the people that she initially reached out to bring them into the fold and get them involved, Pick Smith, and there were several others. If she hadn't done what she did, really reaching out, I don't know if this interview series would have taken off like it did, because all of those people that initially came forward, they reached out to more people, and those people reached out to more people, and it just kind of grew its own life from there. And, if I look back, I never expected this interview series to take on the life it did. I originally just wanted to do something that would help the community get to know one another by interviewing them and learning about what we all have in common. And my questioning and my approach to asking questions, it definitely changed as the series went on. And I changed my process that I started using to really pre-screen people and help people become more comfortable. And the questioning and the conversation became less rigid and more natural, and that's really what I wanted out of the whole thing. But I was talking with Lady Locks just yesterday about this, but I'd never expected or thought when I started this series that it would become kind of like a Locksport archive. It's a more or less a historical record of the people of Locksport. And I didn't expect it to be that. When I originally started doing this, I just wanted to help people get to know each other, but it kind of became this record of people. And I'm thrilled that it has become that for some people. And I'm glad that it's been molded into what it has become. As far as other notable people, I've interviewed a lot of different people, and the ones that I think are notable for different reasons, Lady Locks comes to mind pretty quickly right off the bat. I don't know very many other people that have done as much for Locksport as she has done and tried to do. She's always trying to help out new Locksporters. She's always trying to reach out to the community and stay in touch and bring people together. And my hat's off to her for doing that. That's just awesome. To me, she's a pillar of the community.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah. So there's other ones too that come to mind. There's a lot of great people that, for example, Jimmy Longs. I've not met or talked with a person who has put so much of himself into making something better. He really set out to make Locksport better by presenting better tools that everyone could afford. And really went over the top to research it, to develop it, to put the tools out there in front of people so they could beat them up and give them feedback. And quite frankly, you just don't see that kind of dedication from many people anymore. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist by far, but the fact that he cared so much and still does and still wants to put great products in the hands of everybody is just phenomenal to me. You've got individuals, to me, Picksmith, DMAC, two very wonderful YouTubers I've learned so much from watching their videos. Also, LPL and Bosnian Bill, while they're very much OG when it comes to Locksport, I learned a lot from watching Bosnian Bill videos, and I also learned a lot from watching The Helpful Lockpicker and Lock Noob. There's a few other, handful of people out there that I learned from originally because I was in Locksport for maybe a year before I ever turned to the community or even realized there was one. But there's a few other ones too that, like for example, you've got people out there like Rat Yoke. Rat Yoke making the type of custom picks he's made, which were really art, I really think set the bar high for everyone else to reach for who was a custom lockpick maker. And we've got individuals in the community that they set the bar high. You've got individuals out there who really go beyond to try and help everyone, and that's largely the whole community as a whole, but you do have those individuals that are just constantly at work trying to help anyone and everyone that comes along. So,
I agree. There's so much help and people out there that truly care and want to help you get to the next level.
Agreed.
I agree with that 100%. So what would your advice be to new Locksporters and Locksporters in general, just coming into the sport, just learning about it, and where would you have them start off, and just any advice you could give to the community?
Well, I mean, I think I consider myself to be an average picker. I'm certainly not an advanced picker like some. But in terms of starting off, start off where you can start off. So some people have no limits or budgets and they can do whatever they want to do to get in it. And there's other people that have a limited budget. But until you like it, I wouldn't go, completely deep into it and spend a ton. Start out small, get something simple like a simple starter set, like the Covert Instruments Genesis set. That's a good one to start with. It's got some great tools in it to get going. I wouldn't spend a ton of money on anything when you're just getting started. There's so many other things you can get into with Locksport. Everything from making challenge locks to making your own lock picks and tools and doing key impressioning. There's so many different things you can actually get into and find what's interesting to you and go with it. There's people out there that spend their time making challenge locks and hardly pick at all. And there's people that like making all the tools and getting them to people and selling them, and they don't pick a lot either. So you don't have to necessarily be picking a lot to be in lock sport, as long as you're doing something that, you know, is related to lock sport. I think that's, if that's what you enjoy, then do it.
So how has lock sport evolved since you began? You said you started in around COVID time.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of changes over the years with, the way the sport has evolved. What do you see?
It's very cyclical. I feel. Somebody might disagree with that, but to me, I see it ebb and flow. There's time periods where things cool down, and I think there's a lot of people, myself, and I'm very OCD, so I tend to travel between different interests often enough that, I'll put something down for a while and come back to it. But I think there's probably a lot of people out there who give it a try. They get really totally 100% buried into it and enjoying it. And then suddenly something else comes along and there's something else they're interested in doing for a while. Um, I just, I guess what have seen happen since COVID and since I got into it is there's a lot of people who've risen, and there's some people that rose and didn't stay, and then there's other people that really became the foundation of what Locksport is today and stayed in. I'll again use Lady Locks as an example. She's kind of a foundational person in Locksport, in my opinion. But you've got other individuals as well who are very much involved with things and have been around for a while. And then you've got some other pickers that they come and they go. That's, I just see it's very, like I said, it ebbs and it flows.
Yeah, you said it with your OCD. I'm kind of the same way. I have a little bit of the OCD, and I get into things and out of things.
Yeah.
Every hobby you can think of, I've probably been in. What other hobbies did you get into before, and what brought you to lock sport?
I don't know that the hobbies I was in before brought me to Locksport per se. So I have to attribute any of my recent interests and pursuits to my wife. I've been married to a wonderful woman for going on 12 years now, and no, almost 13 years now. I've come later this year. She has been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter, encouraged me to try and do new things, to really pursue my dreams and my interests. And I'd say if it hadn't been for her, I probably would not have even tried half the things I've tried in the last 14 years that we've been together. She encouraged me to, I've tried race car, owning a race car, driving it, racing it, doing car shows. I did that for probably 8 years before hanging that up because I had my fill of it. I've done competitive shooting as well and enjoyed the heck out of that until I couldn't do that anymore. And I've tried any number of other hobbies and things along the way that really allowed me to try different things. Lock sport was just another one of those interests that I decided to get into. She has always been my top supporter of my channel, of this interview series. I can't tell you how many times she has had to take a back burner because, I'm sorry, honey, I've got an interview I've got to do this evening. And she understands, definitely, she tries to make things, keep them quiet in the house when she knows I'm recording, and just very supportive about everything. And, I kind of moved away from Locksport just a little bit, not enough that, I'm still doing the interviews and I still do some other content, but I think I overdid it. I was putting out episodes almost daily and I burned myself out after a bit, and I needed to take a break, and I did. I kind of pulled away for a bit, and then I came back to doing interviews again, but it's primarily what I'm doing because the interview series I find to be important to Locksport and to the community. I want to keep doing it and providing it as long as the community keeps coming forward and everybody keeps wanting to be interviewed. I'll keep doing it. But beyond that, I mean, my interests always change a lot over time, and I try many different things. Right now, it just happens to be music, where I'm trying to learn to play the guitar, and I'm also trying to learn to play the piano, and I'm learning to make my own digital audio music, and then mixing things in studio and trying to learn how to go about doing that. And I'm trying to help some other musicians that I'm aware of to get their songs and stuff recorded so that they can share that with their families. So it's something else that I really love doing.
That's amazing. With all that you got going on, you still come back to Locksport to do these interviews. I think it's very important, and it's just a history archive of our sport, of the people in it, and what it could be.
Yeah.
And
so for me, I felt like I said, I was producing content daily almost, and it started feeling like a job. And if anything I can give people advice on is, when doing your YouTube channel starts to feel like a job and it's not necessarily so much fun anymore, it's time to step back. You're taking it too seriously, and a very small percentage of people that start a YouTube channel in anything, let alone Locksport, turn it around to be something they can monetize and make money off of. So if you're doing it for that reason, I would just not.
yeah, absolutely. I know how that goes, because I've almost burnt myself out right out of the gate, because I always have to be the best in everything.
Yeah.
And I think that it relates to you and me with our OCD. If we're going to do something, it's going to be to the best of our ability, and we are going to be the best at it, and have all the tools for it, and have our, as we discussed earlier, the desk tools and the on the go tools, and
3 sets of this and 4 sets of that. Yeah. What I thought was interesting is I did Sandman's interview, though that was the last episode, and he talked about the tools that he obtained and all of that. And here I am sitting and I'm nodding my head as he's talking, because yep, I have that set. Oh, yep, I have that one too. Now, mind you, I don't have some of the really older stuff he's got, and I don't have HPC or any of these other types of sets, but everything that's out there right now, at some point I've picked up or purchased, and I still go ahead and pick up new stuff that I see come out, and I want to check it out, and I'm curious. My curiosity gets the best of me sometimes, but I definitely want, when someone asks me, hey, what do you think? I want to be able to give an honest opinion. I don't want to just give an opinion based on what I think I would think. I want to base it on, here, I've tried this, and I don't like them, or I like them, or whatever it is. So,
yeah, I'm the same way. I don't have the bankroll as I used to get all the sets and everything, but I've had just about all of them.
Yep.
So you said you're more into the music, and you've stepped away a little bit from Locksport. What brought you to that in life, that you're moving in this general direction?
Yeah. So, it was about almost 2 years ago now, that maybe a year and a half ago, but no, about 2 years now. My wife, she decided to start going to church, and I've always been a man of faith, and I consider myself a Christian, but I wasn't a churchgoer by any means. She had a very rich history of her faith and being involved in the church throughout her entire life. So when she decided she wanted to go do that, and then one visit and one weekend and one another weekend and another weekend, I thought, well, I should go probably check out what she's doing and what she's involved with. It really only took one visit from me going to get me really to dive in. And I never thought my faith would take the route that it did. I'm glad it did, because it really has changed my outlook, not just on life, but on how I treat other people. I've always been of the belief that you should treat others the way you want to be treated. And, well, that's one of God's commandments. But that aside, I have always also thought that, you can run into somebody on their worst day, and we have no idea or no way of knowing when, what someone else is dealing with in their life at that moment. Does it give people an excuse to treat you badly? No, but we're humans and we're fallible in that way, and we fall. And our decision about how we want to handle that with other people is what makes us different. And I choose to not take it personally when someone snaps at me or someone has a bad moment or whatever. I just try to take that in stride. And again, I'm a man of faith, so I will pray for that person that whatever they're going through gets better. And I try to do things that allow me to be more involved with my church and helping people out there. And I do 2 other podcasts besides my Locksport-based one or my channel. So, I do 2 other faith-based podcasts, one for my church and one that I do on the side on my own, and that I have other people that are involved with. But largely that's been taking over a lot of my time. That definitely had me drop off from doing the type of content that I was doing and the frequency of it to I wanted to continue the interview series. That was important to me. And then eventually I picked back up doing more of the Challenge Lock workshop series, which I want to do more with. Doing this whole thing with music and the recording studio stuff. Here we sit in this recording studio and having this interview one-on-one, which is awesome. It's always it's a lot of fun to do this in person. But this has I had to make room. Something had to go. Something had to give. So my Lock Lab, as Broke will tell you when he was here to do his interview that I did of him, the Lock Lab was still mostly in place when he came to visit, and that's all packed up and out of the studio room now, in boxes, taking up most of the space in my shop at the moment, which is a large shop. But there will be a room that I'll have available eventually that I'll be able to set up in, and the Lock Lab will be back up and running. And I want to return to so many different things once that's present again. So,
yeah, that's one of the things you touched on there was really near and dear to my heart, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Lock Sporters and people that took the time to see that someone was struggling and suffering.
Yeah.
And that's a very important thing to me.
Yeah.
So we've talked, and we've both dealt with some trying times.
Oh yeah.
And what would be some of your advice for people who are going through some hard times and things like that? Because that's important to me, and I want people to be able to have the tools they need to make it through life, because I didn't.
Yeah.
And, sometimes people just need a good person to give
Yeah.
advice from. And I think you've dealt with a lot and
Mhm.
you have some pretty good advice. And I think it's important to share. So, what would your advice be?
Um, One, to not give up. Things will get better. Nothing's always as bad as it seems at first, and when you finally have a chance to sit down and really analyze things, sometimes things just need a time to work themselves out. But really, your ability to get through things is really it's very strongly, in my opinion, based on who you choose to spend and invest yourself with and have in your life. So what I mean by that is have people in your life who have your back. Have people in your life who are interested in your well-being. Have people in your life that you're interested in their well-being. It needs to be reciprocal. And yes, I'm all for helping anybody who needs help. It's the people that keep coming back needing help and they're not appreciative that I have a difficult time with. And I'm trying to be more giving and more forgiving. And that's really a key thing there too. Like I said before, everyone has something they're dealing with. And each person you run into could be having their worst day ever and you just happen to be in their path that day. Keep that in mind. When you're dealing with something though, you need to be able to lean on the people that you've decided to associate yourself with and have involved in your life because they're part of your support group. They're whether it's your family or friends or whoever it is, they're the ones that are going to be there and they're the ones that are going to they're going to cheer you on. They're going to tell you you can do it. They're going to encourage you. They're going to listen to you. Probably that's the most important thing is just to be heard sometimes. But
Absolutely.
as an
Heard.
individual, again, I'm going to go back to I've had a lot of bad stuff happen to me in my life. I've had to start over again more than a couple of times, completely from nothing, and have come back kicking and screaming with a vengeance. But I'll say that the key to that is, the things that impact me today. If I'd had those same things impact me 20 years ago, before I had done any growing, they would have devastated me. Today, I can have things that would have devastated me 20 years ago roll off my back. My wife and I have dealt with so much stuff that has hit us that we've had to deal with. And I can tell you there was one particular episode, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it really hit us big time and really hit us to our core. And about a year into a 3-year ordeal, I just realized, you know what? And this is when I found my faith. I'm like, I turned it over to God. I'm like, God, I don't have any control over what the outcome of this is. I don't have any control over how this is going to go. So you take it, and I'm not going to spend any more time worrying about it right now. And I know that sounds like it's easier to do than actually it is to do, or it's easier to say than it is to do. But I guess once you find your faith, you can basically do that. You can turn it over, and I did. And I immediately felt less stress. I felt like things are going to turn out the way they're supposed to, whatever that is. I don't have control over it. And I'm willing to just give that over and accept it, whatever that is, that it's going to be okay, that we'll work through it. So that's what I would tell people is surround yourself with people who are supportive, people who are not just there to get something from you, but they're genuinely interested in you.
Well said. I tell my kids and everybody I come across now, you know, you can only deal with the things that you have the tools to deal with. I went through life dealing with things with a hammer when I should have probably had
Yeah.
a screwdriver. And
Yep.
our discussions were just, you know, I think you're really great at expressing how to handle things and stuff like that through our discussions.
Yeah. Yep.
And I really appreciate our discussions. And I just wanted to let everybody else hear what what an inspirational type story you have on top of just lock sport and things like that.
I think everybody has a story to tell. It's just a matter of if you take the time to listen. That's all. Everybody's got one.
Yeah,
We can all learn something from everybody else.
and that's what I'm trying to do now. And I've learned a lot from you. And
If you have, I'm happy to hear that.
oh, I definitely have. I've listened to your interviews and everything, and I just you've came through a lot, and now we're on the other side of it, and now we can possibly help other people.
Yep.
And then, what do you see in your future for Lock Sport and your channel, and what do you see coming into the future?
Well, my channel's always been about trying to help people learn something, teach them something, whatever. I never really did the typical pick and gut type of channel. So the future is probably going to be definitely continue to do the interviews. As long as people keep coming forward, I'll keep doing the interviews. But I also want to rekindle the Challenge Lock Workshop series. My entire shop, when I started that series, was tooled up to be able to do videography in the shop, to record doing all kinds of different work, from working on picks and doing all the metalworking to the woodworking to a number of things, even epoxying the handles and so forth. So there's camera stations literally throughout my shop. I definitely want to make use of all of that I put in there and invested in that to rekindle the video series for the Challenge Lock Workshop. And I want to do more interviews along that line as well. So that's pretty much the future of what I anticipate doing. I need to get my lab set back up again, but that probably is not going to be until later this, probably around June or July of this year. So in the meantime, I'll continue to do the interviews and, enjoy doing those. So,
Okay. With that, that was my last question there. And as you always do with your interviews, do you have any thank yous to anybody in the community
sure.
that you'd like to get out?
First and foremost, again, I'm gonna thank Lady Locks again. She was a great sounding board for me when I wanted to do this series, and she's always bent an ear to listen and chat with me when I've asked her to, and run different ideas. And we've had quite the colorful history with people trying to create problems for the two of us. I'm not going to go into all that, but we stayed tried and true to each other as far as being friends, and definitely put a stop to a lot of that garbage that was going on. And she has given me some very sage advice in the past that I have appreciated, and continues to do so. We talked just yesterday, and she gave me some wonderful advice about something that I was thinking about pursuing in lock sport as well. So more about that sometime in the future. For now, we'll just leave it as she gave me some wonderful advice. Pick Smith, it has been a great friend. I've enjoyed friendship with him and collaborations on things with him, like Challenge Lock that he tested for me and I had put out there, and I hope to put out even more of them coming up in the future here once I've set my lab back up. But there's several other people that have, I've been involved with and talked with, and um, Jay Gabriel's another one. He's a wonderful person to talk to. Great ear to bend. Always has great ideas, and I've enjoyed him. Also, there's a few other people that I don't know how active they are in the community anymore, but I know Trucker is still out there, and hey, Trucker, you're definitely somebody I consider a friend as well. And you, of course, yourself, Broke.
Thank you.
You've been out to my house twice now. So basically, who else? I'm trying to think. I can't remember the names. I'm drawing a blank now. Well, there's several other people, and if I haven't mentioned your name, my apologies. It's just I've met so many people doing these interviews, and not all of them, not all of them become really, really, really close friends. But I consider everyone I've ever talked with to be a friend that has at least taken the time to talk to me and let me get to know them, and they get to know me, because really it's the pre-interview that I do, that I share about myself. I share information about myself and my history and my beliefs and interests and hobbies and experience, and all of those things I share during the pre-interview. I don't typically share them during the actual interview itself, because those I reserve for being about the person being interviewed, not myself. So, okay. So I guess with that, we'll wrap this one up. If you have not been interviewed yet, why not? Again, we're our real look at this is to try and make this to be the Locksport archive. So be a part of the archive. Let Locksport know who you are or who you were, or let them know when they've heard a name that they can go and they can actually listen to your interview and understand who you are and what you're about. Get with me and we'll get something set up. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thanks for listening.